It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.
We're podcasting again. We're having a special podcast today about a special podcast. So let's introduce ourselves and we can get fired up and get going. Anybody want to start?
Hi, I'm Chad Jettner.
I'm Peter Lawrence.
And I'm Kyle Bacher, and today we're going to do a retrospective on the first 100 podcasts that we've done. So The last one we did was number 100. You can't do a retrospective on 100 podcasts in the 100th podcast.
I bet you could.
Wait a minute now.
You just wouldn't get very good feedback on that last podcast. That's all.
Exactly. So we started this, just some background on it. We started this thing before our first release, but we released our first one 4/26 of 21. So April of 2021. I think we started getting ready for it. January of 2020 is when we decided to do it. No, not that long ago.
I don't think so.
I don't know. And, it's never all right, let's do this. Let's get her done. It's, hey, we should do this. What do you think? We should make this public.
We should.
And So it got real in 2021 and podcast later.
There was one before this, right? There was an internal STG podcast before this that Baby J and other folks were a part of, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to mention it. So back in 2018, we started up an internal podcast. So SDG listeners only, employees only. That way we could complain. That way we could talk about really specific consulting stuff. And
zombie
we didn't
apocalypse.
Really think it was, the zombie apocalypse and stuff. But, at the time I was a consultant, and what was it? You and Baby J and Ryan were at a happy hour.
Yeah, we were at a happy hour and we said, hey, I want to do a podcast. And they said, I want to do a podcast. And we said, hey, let's do a podcast. All right, how do we do a podcast? And then they're like, well, let's just get together and start recording some things. And everybody's like, oh, you should talk to Kyle. He's got cool microphones and stuff. And I'm like, we should. And so we did. So that was a good start. But let's talk about the 100 for this one that includes our good buddy Chad here.
Yeah. But that's kind of that's the start of it. Because after doing that, or I think we did 50 of them. And John, after
did we only do
listening
50?
Yeah, there's about 50.
That feels light.
It does. Maybe it is. I haven't gotten counted. But John said there's no reason this can't be public. And the other thing he said was, there's really no podcast that he's ever heard of. Consultants are talking about consulting,
right,
and about all the stuff that they do for a living and how we do it, being part of SDG. And, I was thinking why do we do it? Why are we doing the podcast?
I'm wondering that right now.
I just like talking to Chad, really.
Yeah.
You can do that anytime, Peter.
Anytime?
Exactly. You could actually do it at about 4:30 tonight at a bar.
Your favorite watering hole? I was looking back at our at this podcast, the 100 episodes, and I was looking at some of the titles and remembering all the talks that we did. And was astounded that we came up with 100 different things to talk about. Looking back, I won't say that we hit every one of them out of the park because, hey, we're learning this stuff as we go. But
yeah,
there were some astounding, just amazing podcasts that we got through. I remember the Norman Foreman. I guess we start with forming, right? But
yeah, the teams ones with Nick Brecken.
Yeah, those were super fun. I thought that was an amazing set of podcasts. And that brings me to sort of when we have a guest who's talking about something that's near and dear to their heart, I think we do an amazing podcast. The QA one with Keela, the ones with Melanie, the UX ones. Just all of those where people were just like, I really care about this. I care about this topic. And I can talk about it for 6 hours, but you guys are going to make me talk about it for only one.
We always got to get them back because they leave us wanting more.
That's right.
I fell in love with podcasts because it's the fly in the wall to a conversation being had by people that have specific skills, interests, whatever. So you can dial and you can really kind of pick and choose. There's so many out there now. But when I was thinking like what's the core purpose, and it's the consultants kind of talking about their world and all the stuff that they do and all the stuff we do as a company. And I think it really gives people an insider look, not just on what we do and our expertise and things like that, but just what people are like that work for SDG.
Mm-hmm.
You get a sense of what we're about. And I think, communicating that out and then reaching, people interested in those topics, reaching people, interested in coming to work for us. There's a number of different kind of vectors for audiences. I don't know if vectors is the right word. I just like to say it. Tactical vector.
Tactical vectors.
Yeah. So we try to have relative topics. We try to improve. Chad has helped us dig a little deeper when we do topics.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Chad, you have no patience for like small talk. You just want to get into it. You want to dig in. You have this drive to really get into stuff.
Well, I mean, it's the same as like, how should I say this the right way without getting in trouble? When we're building things, right? When Peter and Kyle, when we're building software, when we're doing whatever it is we do, I don't have patience for kind of what you said, Kyle. I mean, I small talk all day and all night. We go to a lot of happy hours. But the thing that I don't have the patience for is just platitudes, right? Like,
yeah,
platitudes don't write a single line of code, right? They don't deliver a single feature. And it's for what we do for our jobs, SDLC, in our software development lifecycle. It seems like there has been so many people that have attached themselves to that process, don't deliver features, functionality, anything else. And I think that my mindset and my approach to those folks is the same as my approach to this podcast, right? Like, actually do something, right? Can you write a requirement? Can you write code? Can you write tests? Can you help clarify something? If the answer to all of those is no, please God, get out of my way. And then the same thing with the podcast, right? Like, if we're going to be talking about AI, let's talk about our actual experience with it, right? Like,
yep.
Have you used it? Let's not speculate, because we're really kind of bad at that.
I'm
by and large, I think
I'm like a prophet. I can.
That's what I was thinking.
I know what's going to happen. I see.
Yeah. So that's it, really. I mean, I just talk about actual stuff. And to your point about using this as a medium to try to attract potential coworkers, which would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Or if our clients are listening to us, our ability to communicate accurate and our ability to articulate our thoughts and opinions around the tech stack, like when we do a tech-focused podcast, or even the Nick Brecken one, the Stormin and Foreman and Norman, like that's good stuff. And so, every once in a while we talk about, I don't know, the last one we talked about that wasn't really about anything specific, but like we've had podcasts where we just kind of generalize and what is it like? We do some fun ones once in a while.
Board gaming, for example.
Fun ones. There you go. Yeah.
I like the Dungeons and Dragons one. I thought was awesome. Like, I learned more about teams and team building and all of that. It's such a good exercise for working inside a team, and it's fun when you get a really good group of people. So I started playing. Hey, if he's going to do a podcast, I'm going to have to show up and play some D&D, which I hadn't played for years. But things like that, I learned so much about that because my work has been so different. Everybody has their own kind of like path and skill sets and whatnot and projects they get. And mine have been different and mostly solo. And I haven't followed the SDLC. I haven't had to.
Right. You're more about get in and get it done and get out.
I haven't been part of a well-functioning like Scrum team, Agile, whatever that is. So I've learned a ton just by being part of these podcasts about like what you guys do. Because I always suspected that my job was way, way harder than everybody else's. And it's like, no, it's just different. And things stand out to me like there is a way it's done. You guys know that the way it's done, like how to go in and they're done. So the podcasts have been really educational for me and learning about development, things like that. I like the fun ones. I like to joke around and laugh and stuff. I think I've also gotten better at not talking so long and trying to make space for other people and not interrupting. It's so hard for me. I interrupt and I'm like, sorry, I got to dial back.
Got to step back.
Chad, have you had fun?
I have had fun. I've had a lot of fun. It's been a little weird. So yeah, it's part of my routine now. Friday noon podcast. While I eat lunch on the side, it's Heater. Did you have fun? Have you had fun?
I've had a great time. I mean, like everyone, everyone hopefully that listens to these podcasts, I myself, as I listen and do them and participate, I learn so much each time, and it's really, I mean, it really helps you to take, I've talked about, like, when you're reading a business book, you're looking for that nugget, that one piece of advice that you can easily apply and easily remember. There might be some that you can easily apply, but if you don't remember to do it, it doesn't really help you much. So, and like these podcasts are, super helpful to, get those nuggets in an hour and have people talk about how they're learning them. I was trying to find when we had that first one where Chad broached the happy hour subject of sort of the building better team and camaraderie and things like that introduce sort of I like to do it with a happy hour. And I think that's been some of our running commentary is always fun too, because, these concepts get brought up over and over in different places. And, a happy hour is sort of I don't know, what do you want to call it? Tried and true, but also not always as, clear cut a thing as, it can be for some people, right?
Well,
but if you're an alcoholic or something like that, and you have problems with alcohol or problems with things like that, happy hours maybe not your thing. Just the concept of the happy hour, sitting somewhere, chatting. Yes, there happens to be a beer in front of you or what have you. Yes, there's a meat raffle going on to the side. Those kinds of things. But I think it's a great concept, and I think it was one of those fun ones. Like, we spent a lot of time talking about it, and Chad kept trying to bring it up as often as possible, which is exactly what you should do, right? Sometimes some of these ideas take a while to take off.
Kind of tangentially related, we still have not had one.
We have not had our happy hour.
No,
our celebration happy hour.
Yeah. It's well, I thought Chad would be the best person to coordinate that. Because he's so good at it. Or Emily, I don't know. I just want to show up.
I speak flippantly about it.
8,648 listens. I'm going to say that again. 8,648. Now, wow. I know we're not trying to be one of the big podcasts. What's the biggest podcast you know about?
Rogan?
Yeah, I think it's number one for audience and listeners. I think it's Rogan. Chad, what's your pick for the big one?
I would say Rogan, or one of the NPR ones. I usually listen to the NPR shows as podcasts instead of live. So This American Life is probably way up there.
So, that's not what we're trying to be. That's not the goal. So we're never going to have like those million listener, unless we do one that's just extraordinary and it goes viral. Just today, we've had 24 people listen.
I'm not even sure what a viral podcast would feel like from, these chairs that we're sitting in. Just be like, oh, hey, by the way, I heard your podcast, and it's somebody completely would just be, floored.
I'm actually looking at the Spotify list of biggest podcast. According to them, This American Life is number 62. I don't know any of these people. I guess Travis and Jason Kelsey one I knew.
I'm not really tied to any one particular podcast. I'm tied to guests more than anything. Who's the guest? What's the topic? So I listen to a lot of different ones, but I'm totally happy with, and I don't know if I'm surprised. Like, I don't know what, I didn't really have an expectation of our growth, what our audience was. Starting out, the point was like, how do you do one? How do you even get one going? And it's, what equipment do you need? How do you host them? How do you get them on these platforms? Like, Chad, when you started with SDG, we chat frequently about all that setup stuff and looking into it, and then platform selection.
So, I mean, my preference is usually to do them in person. And I don't think it's ever going to be a thing for this one, but I would love for us to be in person more often when it works. Mm-hmm. And my favorite episodes, I mean, like I said, I listen to This American Life, and my favorite episodes that they do is when they're in like a diner or they're in a bar or they're in somewhere, right?
Okay.
And you hear all this ambient noise in the background. So when we were starting this, I was talking about getting the what is it? Lavalier. Yeah. Some of those, just clipping it to us and then grabbing one of them Zoom recorders and going somewhere, right? So you actually hear some ambiance instead of, my washing machine or
lawn
whatever.
Or
exactly.
What have you, right?
Which we can still get to at some point, but
we can. I mean, I can price that stuff out. You've got the recorder.
I do.
I'm getting one because I want to have one as well. That has like 6 ports in it, so we can hook up microphones. Because that's when we're recording in person. That's what I want to have instead of using that boom mic on my video camera. I'd rather have us like recording into one of those devices and then just have the cameras doing the video.
I will say
that the camera.
Yeah, I will say that over 100 podcasts, we've gotten better at doing sort of the remote. I got to wait for the right amount of pause before I jump in, or I got to try to jump in at least 3 times with Kyle or with Chad if they're going too long or it feels too long for some reason, and those kinds of things. And it's been fun just getting that style down. In person is easier, but I think even as our podcast that just went out last week, the number 100, it wasn't. We still had a bunch of like, hey, I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about this. 3 people at the same time trying to talk about the topic at hand. So yeah, and it's fun. Everybody wants to get in and give their 2 cents, right?
So of all the episodes we've done, which one did you enjoy the most, or which one are you the happiest with? Which one stands out to you?
I think for me, the one that we did with Akila, because I was a little shocked at how much she had to say, like, and then that there was a framework involved and a whole like maturity level and everything else. Like the ones where I talk to somebody that I don't normally talk to and then am genuinely surprised at just how deep and how, like, when I'm surprised to talk to a consultant that I haven't talked to before, and they can just dig deep on a topic that I'm not necessarily familiar with. Those are great. And the most recent example of that is Akila. I mean, even number 100 that we just put out there with Dan Shui. I mean, to hear him talk about physics and quantum computing. I mean, I know Dan Shui as a talented developer and an amazing guitar player and a fun hang at a happy hour. But also, there's this dimension of
foodie, great cook.
He hasn't cooked for me yet.
He's cooked for me, phenomenal food.
So for me, those are always the most surprised. Like the better episodes are the ones where we bring somebody in that we haven't talked to. Who did we have on a little bit ago? Zach Tollefson, right? He came on.
Yep.
And talked about and it was great. So I love those.
I think I missed that one.
Yeah, that's one you were gone for, Kyle. But it's fun, like, and to give those people a voice and to talk about it, and hopefully they come out of there with, hey, I want to do some more podcasts, or maybe I want to start my own.
Well, like the Zach Tollefson one, or the one you guys did on what was that thing? I wasn't there. There was some hubbub about this tool. I should look it up, but I listened to it after. It was the first one, because I have hardly missed any podcasts.
Right.
I think I've missed probably 4. And those are the ones that I love listening to.
Those are fun.
Because I get to be just a pure audience member, and I don't have to hang on every flaw that I made. And I like it. Like when I listen to those, I'm like, you guys sound great. I hope I don't wreck it by being on it. Because these guys sound phenomenal. And I've had some feedback too from people that seem to like it. Have in our quick poll, what are we up to? The poll from an hour ago, where I had people let me know if they
25
listen to the podcast. We're at 24, and that's just a quick Slack thing that's been running for like an hour, internal poll. So the fact that we have internal people listening to it, I think is great. I know there's specific podcasts that get recommended to like newer employees that might be new to consulting. It's pretty, I think, in terms of creating content, because as a species, we are creating an enormous amount of content. I think it's worthwhile. I think the stuff we're talking about, the content we're putting out there, I think is worthwhile. I think it's easy to listen to. It's inside, like some of them are insider stuff. So like a developer would want to listen to it, more of a tech person. Some of it's soft skill stuff, which anybody can benefit from, except for Chad, because he's arrived. He's there. He's got it figured out. Are you muted?
He's just waiting for an opportunity to jump in.
That's when I give him one. I say something on Chad's behalf so that he can shake his head and correct me or give me something back. But
no,
he's going Zen.
Yeah. Locking up.
That's
locking
fine.
up. All right. So
I had a thought. Go ahead, Peter.
So what do we got to do better besides having a topic? I don't know. Months in advance would be so unbelievable that I can't even imagine it. But and a little behind the scenes, we tend to come together on Tuesdays in Slack to try to come up with a topic for the podcast. On Thursdays to discuss it. Fridays to deliver it. And I'd
like to get a larger group of topic generators, because I am almost completely tapped out on topics, because I think I've come up with 90% of them, 85%.
That's what I was going to say.
And because I like to come up with I like to be the guy that comes up with the stuff.
Ideas are fun.
But I'm always willing to do someone else's if they're excited about it, they're into it. I'm okay with not doing our topic. It's really been nice having Emily step in as the producer. I used to do all of that stuff, and that was a big load on me. And now so that's something that's changed from when we started, is having more involvement on the back end. I'd like to see some better topic generation. I like to see some, a lineup of people that want to be on the podcast that we could easily choose from. It's hard to hunt people down, because you want someone like Chad was saying, the best podcasts are when you have somebody that's passionate about the topic. And so it's identifying the topics and then the person passionate about it, or the other way around.
I would say it would be easy for us to just start randomly pinging folks and saying, hey, do you want to be on? Right. And people that I just want to create a randomized function for our SDG employee directory and say, hey,
your name
I've never
came
met
up
you before. Do you want to be on the podcast?
Yeah, your name came up as someone that wanted to talk on the podcast.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to do a survey type thing. And what would be better? Just a little Slack poll, or reach out an announcement. Hey, reach out to us. I think one-on-one direct asking is the best way to get someone to
I was just going to say, honestly, finding a person is willing to podcast when asked versus finding someone who wants to volunteer to be in the podcast. I think that's a little different take on it, right?
Yeah,
Somebody asked you to do something. Yeah,
I've had almost 100% success rate when I reach out to somebody directly and say, hey,
Chad,
we're doing this on Friday.
You want to do this for us?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I think they might not be excited about being on the podcast, just because of general, anxiety over public speaking and not having done it before and wanting to do a good job, but they're willing to overcome that and come on anyway. And then as we talk, they get more comfortable, and then we're just up and running, and they do great. So I really appreciate when people are willing to step outside their comfort zone and be on the podcast.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to get some specific people. I can't push them around, though, because they outrank me. We'll get them. Yeah, we've had some really good guests from different, our different practices talking about those specific things like DevOps. I really liked the Right to Repair one. Having Alec on there, the farm boy who can hit a golf ball 340 yards, no lie. Because I saw him do it, and I still have no idea what happened or how it happened, but he crushed it. And then Lex. Was it Lex or was it? No, it was Eric Schneider was the other one. Eric had the tech side.
Right.
Like he had that all figured out. He knew all about that and been reading into it. And then Alec knew about like the difficulties in fixing John Deere tractors and other things. Because Right to Repair was on a couple different fronts. And one was the agriculture equipment. That was one focus, and then the other one was, but just the knowledge those guys had and brought to the podcast was awesome. The board gaming knowledge that Brian Gannis and Lex Ryan brought was awesome. Yeah. So,
Chad, were you in that one, or were you off that week?
No, I was in. Board games was that was I was actually surprising. It was surprising. I was surprised at that one. I expected to do a lot of listening. But who was it? Lex actually had a degree in game design from, what was it? He went to college for game design, not
right.
board game design, but
right.
All of that stuff. Like when you find out like surprising little tidbits about folks like that, that's just great. I mean, I hope we can. Our norm is to have a guest a week, like a new guest. You know, maybe that's the thing that we can try for this year is every week, just somebody we haven't had on before. Like we haven't had many of the design team on, right? Like none of our UX folks have joined. Melanie.
Yeah, Melanie joined to do user research and
for user research.
She was on two of them, I think.
She's design adjacent.
Oh, she knows so much about it. Yeah. I've worked with her on like doing the HQ, and she's working helping us with the website, and she's a wealth of knowledge on that stuff, which is great, and very passionate about it, extremely passionate about it.
Right.
I don't, like what the people we work with all have passions about something, and all take on their roles as it's like a mission, going in and getting it done, and then, work hard, play hard. And then
you can't be a consultant
and doing their beer brewing and Internet of Things and all of the stuff that they are into.
Right.
Smoking meats. Chad, what is your current smoking meat situation?
Boy, I haven't done much I've been so busy with work. It's taken away from almost every post-work activity I have. I mean, I do still go to baseball games, but that's my one vice. The outside of that, like when I'm not taking it, I don't take many days off, but I'm fairly busy. And that doesn't allow, smoked meats takes patience and time, and I don't have any of that this summer. So I've done ribs, the things that I can do on autopilot, I've done quite a bit. Ribs, brisket. I haven't done a pork shoulder yet. I might, but
So brisket's an autopilot?
Oh, dude, yeah. Once you get your temperature locked in, you just let that thing fly for 16 hours, depending on how big of a slice you got.
Paul Weedell has brisket pretty much dialed in as well. Do you guys ever exchange notes on brisket? I know this is on topic.
No, we haven't. I'm aware of his brisket. He's aware, I think, of mine. We have not exchanged notes. I love mine. I'm not changing.
I'm sensing a brisket off here. Really,
that is a very expensive contest.
What if we supply the brisket? What if you don't have to pay a dime?
I think next summer that would be a wonderful idea.
All right, we got you. We'll come up with a brisket crew, and then we'll figure out a head count and a price per head and have a brisket day. Brisket picnic. I love a good picnic.
Brisket happy hour. Come on.
Brisket happy hour. Excellent. Where could we go that'll let us bring our own brisket? I think I can swing it at Main Streets.
Any park.
And Chad's been in there doing regular happy hours, so he's brought him a lot of business. He'll give us the game room, and we can just go mad with brisket.
Any brew pub will let you bring in food. I mean, if they've got a food truck, they don't care who's actually serving customers. They just want you to be there drinking beer. So we could go to any brew pub if we wanted to, or a park or whatever. But
that's true. So anyway. Are there people out there that you want to be on that you want on the podcast? Are there people you have in mind that you're like, God, I really wish they would come on the podcast?
I'd love to have Jana on. As head of, I think, employee experience, that would be a fantastic guest to have on the show. I think every solution lead, right, this new role that we've defined, every solution lead would be wonderful to have on. So Mr. Levine, Mr. Lamer, Akila again, Jared, get all those folks on and have them talk about what that means, to like what that actually translates to.
Right.
And then as a solution lead, they're going to have a pretty deep understanding of their tech stack. So Mr. Levine for AWS, Lamer for and all the others. So that would be great. I think that would be a nice start. But yeah, I'd love to have Jana on. I'd love to talk to her. I'd love not only for us to have a conversation with Jana, but for Jana's voice to be heard by prospective employees and prospective, other workers.
Yeah.
And that could be really cool. And then we should have our CMs on, right? Like we've got this really cool role at SDG called a consultant manager.
Yeah.
And
that would be awesome.
They're always like fantastic ambassadors for what it means to work here. So
for the consultants, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And speaking of lawn, there's my lawnmower guy.
I could see a series of Inside SDG where we get people from those roles to come on and just talk about them.
Talk about your role. Talk about your vision. Like, how are you going to grow your role? How's your role going to evolve? All that stuff. It'd be great to have those guys on sooner rather than later.
We could do one. We could do one where I talk about my job and all the stuff I do. That'd be interesting. Without complaining.
Without complaining. Well, that would be
without complaining.
That would
be talk about what I walked into.
When you ask for things, sometimes you get them.
I think there's just so much more. I don't think we're ever going to run out of topics, and I don't think we're ever going to run out of people. Being more proactive. So what are we going to do differently? Being more proactive about topics and guests, being further ahead of the curve on that stuff, I think will be good. Maybe increasing the pool of people that we can brainstorm topics with. Maybe more specific tech ones.
That's near and dear to Chad's heart.
The tech stack. Like, what's in your tech stack? How has your tech stack changed? Yeah. Now I'm just generating topics, but because I like it, Chad, when you're excited about something. That brings a lot. And I like it when your actual job isn't going nuts, because you do have to work sometimes while podcasting. But one of the things that I'm really grateful for is that you both full-time jobs and still make time for the podcast.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that's part of being an SDG consultant too, right? Is working your billable time, but then also doing other things to help enrich the employee experience. And this is just one way.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we do that we can dig further into. We've got a lot of committees. We could hit up the committees for give us two of your people to talk about, your stuff. Yeah, I'm excited about more podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing it. I love improving things, figuring out ways of doing it better. Like with the cool microphones and cool cameras.
Those have both helped.
Yeah. I don't mind that Chad's a little fuzzy.
I don't mind a little less clutter in my office.
That's right.
I could have forced it on you because I can't.
I've got nothing but clutter in my office right now.
Because you won't let me. That's, which bothers me. People usually just do what I tell them.
I want his chore cult.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is
exactly
owning the right camera and the right microphone.
The Ted Lasso podcast I loved.
That one was killer.
Yeah, I love having Nick Brecken on. When it comes to teams and coaching, just such a great guy with a wealth of knowledge. It always surprises me when we're between projects, see someone that's on the bench and you're like, how is it that they haven't been snatched up yet? How is it that their last client didn't just keep them forever? I know that sometimes things get finished and consulting is about leaving.
No, Chad's never going to finish. That's what I've heard. And I'm saying that jokingly.
There's so many comments. I'm not going to make any of them.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be quiet for a minute here while I let one go.
We're gonna have to teach Chad how to do a slow exit out of a long time consultant and backfill and go on to more fun things. But
I'm having a blast.
And that's the most important thing, right? Is that you're having a blast. Because as long as that keeps happening, who cares how long it is, right?
So one of the most difficult things that we've had to solve this week, our client is moving offices, and we have a regular happy hour spot, a well-established regular happy hour spot, where not only does everybody know about it, the waitress will text me, hey, how many people you're bringing? Like I'll get a text Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. How many people you bringing? She gave my number to the backup waitress. That waitress texts me, hey, did Elaine ask how many people you're like? Really well taken care of at this one spot. We moved about 15 minutes away. So do we just spend the time to go to that same spot, or do we pick a new spot? And there is a healthy debate going on right now on if we keep that spot or if we pick a new one.
I think you do the once a month, head back to the big spot, your main spot. And then something like that special happy hour. Yeah. I tell you what, happy hours kept me during a few of my projects, like with how crazy they were, having that kind of wind down with your team. That was huge.
They make a big difference. I think we should end on talking about happy hours.
I think so. I think that's been an ongoing theme. And I think that, I've gone through periods where I've like stopped drinking just as a I think I'm gonna like quitting caffeine for a while and going vegan for a week, and
I've heard of those things.
Yeah, trying this, trying that, and it's like unless it's a problem for you, even if you don't drink, you can show up and have a Coke and
a smile.
You don't have to stay long enough to see people get tipsy if that makes you uncomfortable. Has got that all figured out.
We'll get it figured out.
He's got a system in his new book that's coming out, or maybe we have
happy hour fixes everything. I like it.
Actually, I mean, it's funny. I am taking notes for a book, but I don't think it's going to be coming out anytime soon. I talk about it more than I talk about writing it more than I actually write. So maybe someday.
That's easier. Yeah.
How has podcasting changed you? That's my parting thought.
I have no problem.
That's a parting question.
That's a parting question.
I have no problem going into almost any meeting now and contributing just right off the cuff. It's made public engagement speaking so much easier.
I don't know that it's necessarily changed me much. It is nice though. Like when we have new consultants join the company, they always know who I am because I think they're given the podcast as a, hey, listen to this or watch this or here's something to do. So I don't mind that at all. That's really nice that it's a connection point for people that are brand new to consulting or brand new to SDG.
Right.
It's a handful of times folks have reached out and said, hey, I know you from the thing, how you doing? And that's been cool. I like that a lot. I think as far as this specific podcast goes, that's one of the nicest things. And that's one of the reasons I keep doing it is I think it's important for brand new consultants coming into this. I mean, we have our PAL program, we have CMs, we have so much support around them, but that is, limited to one other consultant and then one CM and then whatever else. So I like that. We get exposed, like people get exposed to us and they know who we are. So now we have something to talk about.
I like that we're providing another point of connection. You listen to people that are comfortable around each other enough, you feel comfortable around them and you feel like you're part of it because you're that fly on the wall and you're getting to know and you're learning a few things along the way. So that's what's changed me is I've learned a ton about what you guys do and what our people do and kind of the way it's done on a few fronts, the value of what we do. So I'm in. I'm going to keep going.
Cool.
You guys still in?
200.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a good place for us to just say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.